Shri Sai Ram. Welcome to the 132nd edition of Samarpan, an offering from the alumni and the Sathya Seva organization in Karnataka. We have heard in the Satcharita that Sai Baba used to interact with 60 generations. Well, in this edition of the Samarpan, we have Dr. Raghunath Sharma. I know him personally because he was my senior. Well, his four generations have been lucky to follow Bhagawan. So, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome Dr. Raghunath Sharma. I think he is one of the chosen few who has been a student in Brindavan, student in Parthi, been to Kodaikanal. So, he has been in the home of Bhagawan, he has been in the office of Bhagawan, he has been in the playground of Bhagawan, and now he was also fortunate after the Kodaikanal trip to be also a faculty. Without taking much time, I would love to invite Dr. Raghunath Sharma for this 132nd edition of Samarpan and relive the blessed moments with Bhagawan. Jai Sai Ram.
Om. 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 Yaschandasam vrishabha vishwarupah छन्दोभ्योऽद्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय. Offering my humble salutations at the lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. I also take this opportunity to congratulate all the organizers for giving me this chance to speak about my experiences, my thoughts about Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, who is the very life of all of us. Bhagavan has been the center of our lives. Through the thick and thin, he has been guiding us, guarding us, and at every step, he is making sure that we find the right direction so that we succeed in all our endeavors. Coming to Swami and experiencing him physically is the lifetime opportunity. Many devotees and students who had this great chance of life, they could learn and experience so many things from Bhagavan's near proximity. They could experience the love and they could understand the difference between the worldly attachments, worldly gains, and spiritual gains. This insight to be given, generally a human being goes through a lot of turmoil, at times a lot of tests and tribulations. But with Bhagavan by our side, most of these things became very natural, and with the day-to-day activities going on as they are, Bhagavan intervention in our own life, in our day-to-day activities gave us the true insight into life, and we could understand the purpose and reason. As a teacher, and I have been the recipient of Bhagawan's grace for the past several decades. In 1987, I joined as a student in this great institution, and I had the opportunity to spend uh, close proximity. I had the opportunity to be with Swami uh, closely and experience him as a student. Then later, in 1992, when Bhagawan gave me the opportunity to serve him in the institute, I decided to stay back and join the university as a faculty. And finally, in 1995, I was really blessed to be part of his faculty. Since then, it has been a saga of experiences and love and learning in the presence of Swami. So today, I take this opportunity to share some of my thoughts on how Bhagavan actually brings his devotees, students, close to him, and tries and he gives his best to make the student to realize the true purpose of the life. Life fulfillment is achieved by practicing Swami's teachings and by putting the teachings of Swami into or the devotee in a manner that befits very rightly to that point of time and situation. So several experiences people have, and these experiences draw them close to Swami initially. Like as a student, as a young teenager, I had the opportunity to visit Swami, and in the darshan, the very first darshan when I saw him, it was such a divine experience. I could not, I cannot explain the feelings, but the thought that I have seen the God Himself was filled in my heart, and there were tears in my eyes, and I was in my body was shaking, and Bhavan came close to me, and then blessed me, and then said, "Bangaru, do not cry." Swami said, "My child, do not cry." And with that experience, which filled my heart, it was such a great spiritual experience which I could not explain, but there was a longing in my heart to come back and join this university. And in 1987, finally, I joined my undergrad. So as a student, everybody will have the opportunity to go to darshan regularly and experience Swami. And I had the opportunity also to study not only in Prasanthi Nilayam, but also at Brindavan campus. Let me share with you one or two experiences that I had, and typically any Swami student would experience who have joined the university in those days. I remember once we were all seated outside Trayi Brindavan. Swami, as usual for his morning darshan, came out of Trayi Brindavan and walked in front of all of us. And those were the days actually we had the examinations coming up in a week's time or so. So I was in my undergrad, and Swami stood in front of all students and then asked like this: who is not feeling confident about writing exams? Right? This is what Swami asked. Who is feeling nervous about exams? All of us were silent, and even though some of us were not that confident, still we were having that hesitation to lift our hand in front of all of us. But finally, one boy, my classmate, raised his hand very nervously. He raised his hand and said, Swami, I am little nervous about examinations. And Swami spoke to him. I said, let me just go for darshan and come back. After that, I will talk to you. So saying, Swami went out, finished the round of darshan, he blessed all devotees, and then came back and then called this boy, said, come inside. And later, after some time, that boy came out with beaming face and shared with all of us that Swami gave him a lot of confidence and materialized a pen and then gave to him. Said, you write exams with this pen and you will pass. Surely, he did have the confidence after that. He did well in examinations. And it was a lovely experience for him that Swami at the right time kind of gave him the required confidence and he could go through the examinations. So this experience actually shows that how Swami caters to the personal needs of devotees or students. And initially, these acts of Swami, right, his acts filled with love, care, and concern, brings a devotee or a student close to him. And once he experiences this divine love, the genuine divine love, his heart is filled with Swami's devotion, right? This is the essential aspect for anybody to get into the practice of the real teachings of Swami. For the love of Swami, one starts practicing his teachings. So Swami will take all the kind of efforts. Swami puts in all the efforts, I should say, all the pain, just to bring the devotee or a student close to him. For this, Swami does not spare any efforts. Actually, this is what I have noticed several times. The reason is his love for his devotees and students is so immense that he wants to see that every being, right, actually benefits and by his teachings, and then realizes the true purpose of life. I remember another incident, a nice incident, basically, which taught us how actually we should discipline ourselves in the presence of Swami. Because once we get attracted to our Guru or our Lord, right, and we start staying with him, then our training automatically starts, right? The teaching automatically begins. Living with God is education. That's what Swami says. So for all students, it is an education to stay in the sannidhi, in the presence of Swami, and learn about life. So Swami also says education is not merely getting to know about the facts. Swami always used to say, study is for steady. To have that steadiness, the focus of a life, right? Studies should help you in that. Swami was very particular that we have a disciplined routine, okay, throughout the day. We should study when we are supposed to study. We should play when we are supposed to play, and we should pray when we are supposed to pray. Okay, these things are very important for a student. He should play, he should study, and he should also pray. And due to examinations, we were going very late into the night. So our hostel in Brindavan is just adjacent to the Trai Brindavan, which is just a few feet away, right, 150 feet away from Swami's building. So we are in the same compound, correct? So Swami could easily see whether lights are on or off in the hostel after 9:30, 10. So by 10:30, we're supposed to put off the lights. That's the kind of a disciplined routine we are supposed to follow. So Swami very gently chided us that evening and then said, Bangaru, once your study hours are over, you should put off the lights. If you want, you can get up early in the morning and study, right? Because early morning, waking up early and using that time is more suitable than going late into the nights. And Swami was very particular, right? In our routine, we have the Suprabhatam starting in the morning. Then we have classes. Then we come back, and then either we go for games or we go for darshan, right? Then finally we have study hours in the night, and we wind up by 9:30 or 10 or so by chanting our regular night prayer. This routine has been, is inculcated in every student, and it is so very important to stick to this routine, which basically disciplines his life and disciplines his mind. And Swami also often used to say that if you get up early in the morning and make that as a habit, your memory power also increases, your concentration, the willpower also develops, right? But then, in spite of Swami telling us that we should stick to the routine, some of us still are not putting up the lights because of the examination pressure, or we do not understand the words of Swami that easily. Swami needs to teach in such cases. So what Swami did was, he stopped the darshan in the evenings for us students. Usually after evening bhajans, Swami used to call us specially into the Trayi Brindavan and then talk to all of us. And those Trayi Brindavan sessions were so fantastic that we could experience Swami's leelas very closely. Swami used to create objects with the wave of his hand and give a lesson following it, which used to be a life lesson. For example, he would just with a wave of hand, he would create a object like a ring, and then he will say that and he will present it to a boy and then say that this will give you the protection from your any ailment that particular boy is having, or having any difficulty. So this, and he will also give him the insight into his particular problem and then tell him, advise him how to overcome that. So this used to inculcate tremendous confidence in the hearts of the young in the young minds, and they also practice the teachings of Swami in a very involved manner. So once Swami said that evening darshans, special darshan for students, right? These 3 sessions are stopped. Now it became unbearable for students, right? 1 day over, 2 days over. Then we started, feeling that pangs of separation from Swami. And then we were going to warden and then asking him, sir, kindly request Swami on our behalf that he should permit us to come inside. And so one day we all went and then, surrounded Swami during the darshan. And Swami said, see, if I allow you to come for evening special darshan, then that will cut into your time of examinations. And therefore, you will go late into the night. It is very important for me that you follow discipline, right? I love you all, but above all, but it is very important that you stick to the discipline, right? The routine. Swami used to give that much importance to routine. And you know what happened that very day? Our senior students who are in third year undergrad, right? They were going around each room and checking that lights are off by 9:30, 10. I mean, this is really, is such a big transformation. If you see young students, without even kind of, being told by any faculty, they were going around and advising the students, come on, brothers, let us get up early and then study, as Swami has told us. we will put off the lights by 9:30 or 10, right? So this transformation happened because of the tremendous love that exists between Bhagawan and his students, right? This is how Swami taught, teaching through love. And Swami always used to say, Nasreyo niyamam vina, right? Initially, he attracts the devotee to his fold, right? Attracts the student to his fold. And then later, he needs to discipline him. He needs to give him that discipline. And so as Swami says, Nasreyo niyamam, Shreyas cannot happen without niyamam. Niyamam means the discipline or required routine, right? At physical level, one must practice this routine, right, in the beginning, so that just as a small plant needs a fence around it to guard it, right? Similarly, discipline is like a, it must be there for any devotee initially, so that he is protected. And Swami used to give a very nice example with regard to discipline. Swami used to say, suppose in the olden days, it seems whenever people need to travel, most of the time they used to do by walk, because there were no conveyances like how we have today, the vehicles, all that. So at home, his wife or his mother would pack some food, right, and then give him with some water, and the traveler will start walking away towards his destination, and somewhere in the middle, as he's walking, in fact, he gets tired, his energy will be less, and he'll also feel that the food package that he's carrying with him is also heavy, right? Because he's carrying it. Now he settles down because of, he's tired, and eats the food that is given to him for lunch, drinks some water, and rests for some time, and then he regains his energy and enthusiasm and starts, moving towards his destination very cheerfully, right? And Swami says, and asks us to analyze this particular example. And he says, what happened to the food that was seeming as a burden? Right now, it has become part of him, and also became and gave him and has become the source of energy. Okay, source of energy and enthusiasm. So too, discipline, as long as you practice it as something, a condition that is imposed by others, as long as it is not part of you, you feel it is a burden. But once discipline becomes part and parcel of your life, right, it becomes a source of your energy, right, your development, so on and so forth. Dr. Abdul Kalam ji once said that we do not know whether we can change our future, right? You may not be able to change your future, but you can change your habits, right? Through good habits, definitely your future can also change, right? So this is at the first level. Swami expects us to cultivate this good discipline. And the later, as a student starts spending his time with Swami, he will realize that Swami, there are certain ways by which he can really please Swami, because pleasing Swami becomes your sole motto, right? Your goal in life as a student here. The reason is, if Swami is happy, you will feel happy, right? His mere looks at you, looks of appreciation, fills your heart with joy. So you always look forward to pleasing Swami. And therefore, either in the sports meet that we get to participate yearly in the annually in the university, or through dramas that take place time and again during our student life, we get chances, and we try our best to get into those events, so that we become recipients of Swami's attention. So a student's life is filled with several activities apart from mere the regular education that goes on, and all of them are given equal importance in our institute. So all these components of integral items like Suprabhatam, or in the morning that students chant, and the bhajans that they sing in the evening, and the games that they play, and they participate in dramas, right? And all these things become part and parcel of his personality development. And Swami says, as you are participating in any of these events, you must make sure that you give your best to that. And towards that, Swami encourages a student like anything. I remember in several incidents where Swami would personally visit the campus and become part and parcel of the rehearsals for the drama that take place. And you'll sit through the entire rehearsal, and then you'll correct the characters on the stage if they are making any mistake, or if their delivery of a particular dialogue, for example, is not very good, then Swami would immediately say, no, the expression should be like this for this. And I remember once this was shared with me by my senior, right? He was playing the role of Radha, actually, in the drama, and Radha is singing for Krishna, and in a particular scene, whenever he delivered the dialogue, Swami was saying, "Sariga ravatledu, it's not coming properly," right? And he did not let him proceed till he got it right. And finally, Swami said, "Ippudu baga vachindi." Now it has come out very nicely, and many people around actually could not actually see the big difference between how it was delivered earlier and how it got improved later. But then the student who went through that exercise, he said that as long as it was not coming from his heart, Bhagawan was not accepting it, right? So this is a great lesson again. Swami wants our efforts to be sincere, and they are one with our what we, they must be in unison with our thoughts. Okay, the unison in thought, word, and deed, right? Swami starts driving the devotee or a student towards this end. Swami says, vachas sekam, manas sekam, karmanyekam, mahatmanam, vachas anyat, karmana anyat, and vak anyat duratmanam, right? So leading this aspect of uniting thought, word, and deed is in fact is adhering to the truth. Okay, so this aspect actually purifies our action. So when Swami actually starts demanding this kind of a purity in your mind, your vichakshana or discrimination power starts increasing. And Swami tells us that morning to evening, right, when you are performing your actions, when you are thinking, always keep one point in mind: does Swami like it or not, right? And in this regard, Swami used to quote several examples from our own Puranas and examples from great people. Swami gives the example of Lord Hanuman, who visited Lanka in search of Mother Sita. So he was initially in despair. He was also confused. Then at every stage, he started thinking, what would my Lord do if he is in this particular situation, right? And he started remembering Lord Rama. And then at every action, he got the guidance from Rama himself, and finally he could find Mother Sita. So too, we should check. Swami used to say that I got this thought. Will Swami like this thought? I am performing this particular action. Will Swami like this action? Right? This kind of self-analysis, vichakshana, it is called, when we do, our actions automatically become pure, and that reward also you can see from Swami, right, coming up, so very nicely, right? And it's a matter of joy to experience such thing. I just recall one simple incident here that happened to my own colleague when I was in my undergrad. So there was this boy. who used to regularly take food and then supply to one person by name Mr. Chai. Right? This person, Mr. Chai, was not very well. So hostel had taken up the task of taking care of Mr. Chai. So they would take tiffin, lunch and dinner to him regularly and then take care of him. So each day, one student will take the responsibility, those who are chosen, right, in rotation. They would go and then serve this person. So one day, this boy took the tiffin carrier and he started walking towards Chai's house. To reach Mr. Chai's house, one has to go around Swami's building, that is the Traye Brindavan, right? And so the Traye Brindavan is round in shape, so one has to go around it. He could go either left side or right side, so, okay, circumambulate that, I mean, semicircle fashion, you go and then reach the house. So he started going, and he started moving the left direction. And as he moved, he saw a group of ladies was standing there and doing some work. So immediately he retracted his steps and went around the other way and delivered the tiffin and came back. And that day evening, we were all sitting around Swami. We used to have that great chance of sitting around Bhagawan after evening bhajans are over. Swami would call us inside, and we all will run like, like it used to look like 100 meters dash by all students, because they will be vying to get the closest position next to Swami, so that they could enjoy the entire evening session in Traye Brindavan. So yes, so that day we were all seated around Swami, and Bhagawan came out and sat amidst us and then called out this boy. His name was Rajiv, I still remember. Said, called Rajiv, come here. And said, Swami is so happy with you today. And he waved his hand and created a beautiful ring, a diamond ring. And Bhagawan himself put that to his finger. And then Swami said, today when you are taking food for Mr. Chai, you thought in your mind that some ladies were doing their job at particular location and immediately retracted. And you thought in your mind whether Swami would, how Swami will feel, or what would be Swami's reaction for your particular action. Then therefore you took the decision of avoiding that path. You are a very good boy, very disciplined boy. So yat bhavam tad bhavati, Swami says, right? And Swami also gives the analogy of lock and key. And Swami says, if you turn the lock towards your left, it locks it. If you turn it towards your right, it unlocks it. And Swami also says, lock doesn't change or the key doesn't change, right? What changes is the direction in which you turn the key, right? Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandhamokshayo. So as when you turn your mind towards God, it leads to liberation. Turning the key towards the world, right, leads to bondage. And Swami gives this nice analogy, and all the time he's giving us this kind of a motivation or recognition or reward, right, so that the student stays on the path. So once the mind becomes steady, right, then actually the devotee's journey begins towards God. Because at the next level, what Swami expects is karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, right? It's a beautiful lesson from Bhagavad Gita. Similar thing happens to all students. Slowly, steadily, without their knowledge, in fact, they go through this training. Either in the sports meet or in the dramas, when they participate, their sole aim is to make Swami happy, right? And not actually the action as such. I have witnessed several such incidents, right? If Swami is happy, students are happy, right? That's what drives them. There's no personal goal as such to excel. But Swami will make sure that you excel in your action. Karmashu kaushalam, Swami says, right? One must excel in the action, and that must be offered to God. Because you offer that to God, it becomes perfect. Swami gives several examples. One example that I right away remember is Swami often used to quote this example of a person by name Mr. Antony, who used to make the violin, right? Violin or fiddle, whatever, a musical instrument. And Swami used to say, this person would take very long time, months together, to make a violin or a fiddle, right? And he will tune it. He'll keep hearing to it each time when he ties the string, right? And he will go into making so much. It used to take so much time to make it. His friends asked him, it seems once, if you make an instrument so slowly, you will not be able to sell, correct, more, and therefore you will not be able to make enough money for your daily living. And to which Mr. Antony used to reply that Lord or the God is Nada Swarupa, right? Is the very embodiment of music. Therefore, as an offering, when I'm making a musical instrument, I should be extremely careful, and it should be satisfying the God himself. Therefore, I will satisfy my inner conscience, right? Till it is not satisfied, I will not be able to complete the task. So this example Swami is to give us and then urge the students that when we are doing a particular action, we should satisfy our inner conscience, because that is the place where God himself resides. I remember once, it's a very simple incident, but still how Swami kind of drives home the message. It was the Ganesha Festival, right? All of us had celebrated the festival nicely, and it was that evening we were all going for Nimajjan, the immersion. When toward the end of the festival, we all take Lord Ganesha in a very big procession. All students of the hostel, right? Hundreds of them taking dozens of Ganesha idols, which they have worshipped for 3 days or 5 days in the hostel, take in a procession singing Ganesha bhajans and songs, right, with a lot of fanfare. They go to the place of immersion, whichever is decided, and they immerse Lord Ganesha and then return. There used to be a practice, even now that practice goes on, in fact, that after immersion, right, because of the walk from Mandir till we reach the place of immersion, the students would have, with a lot of josh, they would have excitement, they would have sung bhajans, all that, they would have got tired. So hostels used to take the responsibility of giving some nice prasadam, which will serve as Ganesha prasadam, also give us the required energy. So we used to look forward to taking that prasadam after immersion. We rush to hostel, we take that prasadam and then go back to Mandir. Right? That used to be the practice. So on one such day, we all went to hostel after immersion. We took prasadam and then ran back to Mandir and we sat down. And Bhagawan was still there waiting for students to come back after immersion. He came and gave a beautiful darshan, went around us and stood in front of us and then asked, so did you have prasadam? We said, Swami, yes, the prasadam was nice. We all had prasadam. In the hostel, they gave us prasadam. Then Swami suddenly extended his hand like this and said, what about me? Have you got prasadam for me? This was a stunner. We never expected this, that Swami would do this. So we were all looking at each other and we were also feeling, right, what is this? Swami never asks like this, right? First time we have seen this. Then Swami waited for some time and then he himself spoke out, said, did you think of me? Did you chant Brahmarpanam before eating, right? Brahmarpanam Brahmavi Brahmagno Brahmanavatam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samajna Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamastha Pranapana Samayukta Pachamyan Chaturvidham. This is the mantra every student chants, right? Whether he is in the hostel or he is passed out of the hostel, he always chants this actually before partaking the food. So Swami said, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva, I am in the form of Vaishwanara, right? That's what Lord says, God says, he'll be residing inside you. So if you have thought about God, your Ishtadevata, offered it to God before eating, it will definitely reach me. That's what Swami said, right? So how we perform this action, karmashu kaushalam, right? How you achieve dexterity in action. This is something Swami always, trains his devotee. I'll share another experience here. All students had decided, to participate in a function, particular function. It was Upanayana, like sacred thread ceremony. The sacred thread ceremony was scheduled a week ahead, and therefore all students, I was also fortunate to be part of that, and we went to Swami and said, Swami, please give us the opportunity to participate in this. Swami said, by all means, I'm so happy that you have all come forward to do this, and you go plan up and then do this, and Swami spent some time with us. So we all went back. We had a quick meeting, and seniors planned it out. In fact, a student, this is another part of Swami's education system. Every student gets trained so very well to handle situations and to handle functions, right? Whichever kind of a function it is, trained through either Grama Seva, through some of the events in sports meet, right? Or in the drama, right? You might have worked as a backstage worker, or you might have worked as a costume designer, or almost every aspect of every event is handled by Swami. There's nothing like getting a third party into the business, right? They do from scratch everything. That is the unique aspect of Sathya Sai education. And therefore, you know how to be a good team member, you know how to talk to people, how to get the work done, right? How to plan. These are all very, very important. And therefore, yes, so we all went and then we had a meeting, and we discussed a few things. And again, next day, we all went and sat in Mandir, saying that we will explain to Swami that seek some more advice if required. That and Swami came out of interview room. It was past 9 o'clock or so. Darshan was already over and bhajans about to begin. It was around 9 o'clock. About bhajans were about to begin. And Swami looked at us, and apparently he was little annoyed. Then some of the seniors immediately got the hint, and they were also, they were little tensed, right? And Swami walked a few steps towards us and said, why you have come back again, right? With a stern voice, Swami said, why did you come back again? The task is given to you already. I have already spoken to you. Go and finish some work, whatever is essential, and then you should come back. Don't come back like this without doing anything. So there was a very clear-cut message that when you get involved in action, like karmashu kausam, Swami, you have to be action-oriented. Swami never said that you should just see. Many people might be having sometimes, some of the people, the wrong opinion that Sathya Sai students or devotees are good for doing bhajans. Actually, you should see them in action, either as a Sathya Sai Seva Samitis, right, or Swami students, right? When they go and plan their action, then deliver the seva in the society, right? It will be so meticulous. Okay, that's because of that kind of training and blessings that they receive from Bhagawan. The thought is, when the thought is pure, right, and when it is directed as a service to the society, automatically purity materializes then and there. So when there is purity, there will be unity, right? And unity and purity together leads one to divinity. This is the life goal, right? Swami always puts it like, where there is purity, there is unity. Where there is unity, there is divinity, right? And Swami gives a very nice example to drive home the lesson. He says, think of a bunch of thieves, right? Think of bunch of thieves. Will there ever be unity among them? No, never. Because each person will be suspecting the other. Okay. For a particular action, even if they kind of get united initially, after that there will be so much distrust among themselves. Each one will be looking forward to ditching the other guy. Okay. That's because essentially the purity is lacking in action. When the purity lacks in action, it will never lead to unity. So our thought process must be pure. Okay. The purity in mind is nothing but unity in thought, word, and action. This is the core essence of one of the core messages of Bhagawan. And Swami, that's why Swami says to all students, always stay united. This is the greatest lesson I feel and message of Swami, that students should stay united. Once they are united, because of their purity that comes from Bhagavan's thoughts, right? Bhagavan's message that they're practicing, right? It leads to divinity. So that's why Swami, even in 19, I mean, to 2011, when he was about to kind of, the time had come for him to take the universal form, he used to specially tell students going while he was walking among ourselves, among us, to say, stay united, stay united. I have heard this like dozens of times, Swami repeating it. So unity becomes our core strength, which should be built on purity. That is very important. And then that leads to unity. This is also true for all devotees, not necessarily students, because those who come close to Swami, right, even devotees, we see that the experiences are no different from what students experience. That way, all are same. Just that students have this luck of spending time close to. And once you practice this service to Swami, even if you give him this much, the bountiful of blessings that you receive from Swami is immense, right? Whether he is physically present or not, he's definitely present with all of us today, right? I had this very nice experience few years back, right? In fact, 1 or 2 years back, when my mother was with me. Today she is not there, she is merged in Swami, but she was not in a position to move much in the house, and she was on the bed. And I always had this feeling that I should take her to darshan once, right? Take to Swami's Sannidhi in Prasanthi Nilayam. I have the greatest opportunity to be in Prasanthi Nilayam, right? And so my parents also were with me, and I was always feeling that Swami, you have given me the greatest opportunity to serve parents. It will be nice if I can take my mother to darshan too. She was not in a position to move much. So yes, it was a difficult task. And my mother, one day she just called me and said, I had a very nice vision last night. In fact, it was not like a dream. It was as if I have experienced the whole thing. And she narrated that a huge monkey, my mother is Hanuman's devotee also, right? She loves Hanuman, worships him. And a huge monkey came in my dream, and I know it is Lord Hanuman. And he held my hand and took me to Swami's mandir, right? He went, and it was night, so all curtains were closed. She was describing the whole arena of Sai Kulwant Hall so nicely. She said, Hanuman, in fact, moved the curtain, and both of them went inside. And Hanuman waited at a particular corner, and my mother sat there, it seems, and prayed for some time. Then he turned back to her and said, yes, just nodded his head silently, right? Nobody else is there. Swami's Sannidhi, and just my mother. And she completed her prayer, and Hanuman, a monkey, whatever, right? He just nodded his head, and the dream ended. I was so filled with satisfaction that, in such times, Swami has given her darshan and gave the experience of physically, coming to him. And that's how Swami blesses, right? We only needs to give. Swami often gives the example of Draupadi, who just tied a piece of a cloth, right, sari cloth, around his finger that was bleeding, and he saved her honor. All right. So these kind of experiences are so many, and our life, when it is turned to Swami and we perform our actions with his name on our lips, every action gets purified and it gives us the actual fulfillment of life. Let me end my talk with another small experience of mine. It's a analogy, but it's a small experience might look like that, but it has got great significance. Basant, can I go ahead? Did you say
Sir,
something?
I'm sorry, sir. Actually, I wanted to tell you that if we can move little bit towards the right, because only one part of your face is very visible.
Move towards my. Yeah.
Not the other way, sir. Other way.
No, let me adjust. Then you will see. Fine.
Yeah, I think this is much better, sir. Yeah. So I think you could probably repeat the last sentence that you were saying and then continue.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Absolutely.
Yes.
So I have to conclude. I would like to recall this nice incident, though it looks like a miracle or a chamatkar of Bhagawan. It has got a lot of message in it. We were all sitting around Swami in Brindavan once, and one of the students very lovingly, had offered a tulasi leaf to Swami. And Swami picked up that tulasi leaf and started playing with us, right? He held it in front of us like this and then blew on it, right? Like this. And suddenly that tulasi leaf turned into a gold leaf, right? And then showed, see, what is it? He asked. We all said, Swami, it's a gold leaf. Then Swami again brought it close to his mouth and then blew on it like this, right? And it turned into a regular tulasi leaf, right? Normal tulasi leaf. Now he again asked, what is it? I said, Swami, it's tulasi leaf. Then again he blew on it. It became gold. Then he said, Swami, it's a gold leaf. Then again he blew on it. He said, it's a tulasi leaf. So on and so forth. It went on several times. And then he held it in his hand like this, right? To the gold leaf. Then finally he blew on it, became a tulasi leaf. And then Swami said, see, once it's a gold, it rests in my hand, right? Because it is precious, it has become precious. That's why it is resting in my hand. Why? Because once it touches my hand, because of my touch, the tulasi leaf has turned into gold. That's why it is staying in my hand. Swami said, who wants this tulasi leaf? Swami offered it. And we all stretched our hands. Swami, we want it, we want it, we want it. Right? Almost falling on Swami's lap, some of us. And Swami said, okay, take it, take it. Like that, he brought it close to each one of us and quickly put it in his mouth and then chewed it. It was such a lovely experience to see Bhagawan, right, playing that kind of a mischief with all of us. And that's how Swami is. He is one amongst us. When he is with students, he is a student. When he is with elders, he is an elderly person. When he is with children, he is like a child, right? But his divinity is constant. And Swami said, you also become gold, right? If you really accept my touch, you come close to me, you practice my teachings, you become gold. That's when you can stay close to me, be in my hand, be with me all the time, right? And Swami said, if you want to be close to Swami, you have to practice what Swami does, right? I practice, I also expect you to practice. Swami tells through very simple experience. Once we all got up in the interview room, right, we were all coming out. Swami got up, went and put off the fan. It's a very simple act, right? Swami did not do that. And Swami told us, see, I put off the fan. right? You should not waste energy. Unnecessarily, you should not waste energy. Keep this in mind. Swami teaches like this. And I remember the family reminds me of another incident which is very relevant to recall here. One of the devotees asked Swami, Swami, I have come to you. I have stayed with you for so many years, but I don't see much progress in me, right? This is the feeling most of us get, right? Sometimes even I do that. I have come to you, Swami, but have I really my life? Have I learned? Am I really practicing your teachings? Am I becoming pure? Right. This is another thing. A sincere devotee, sometime or other can get these thoughts. And Swami gave the example of a fan. Right. You put off the fan, will it stop immediately? Swami asked. No. Right. It slows down. The external forces of electricity have stopped working on it, but the propensities will last for some time. Slowly, but surely, it's going to stop. And then Swami said, once you have come to Swami, you have put off the switch, right? Let it rotate. How long it can rotate? One day it has to come to a stop, right? So the propensities of worldly things, all that will definitely stop one time. And by his grace, definitely one day we'll be close to him. And Swami, like how he kept that golden tulsi leaf in his hand, he will keep us close to him, right? So with these words, once again, I thank you for this lovely opportunity. Thank you all for making me relive those memories as a student and what I am today. So let me chant Shanti 3 times and close my talk. Thank you all. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Dr. Raghunath Sharma, I think we were delighted to hear your talk. I remember you as Ratnakara. You played that blessed role and you literally poured your heart into that role. And I can never forget that memorable performance as Ratnakara. Well, your first interaction with Bhagawan and Bhagawan blessed you by saying not to cry. That was an amazing blessing. I also know some of the drama incidents where we have interacted with you, and your commitment and the tone in your voice was excellent. An important lesson we learned today was Swami wanted us to pray on time, Swami wanted us to play on time, Swami wanted us to pray also on time. So, this playing, praying, and studying on time was an excellent discipline lesson we learned today. Another important lesson we learned today was Swami wanted us to imbibe discipline and also think and act whether if Swami would love this action of ours. And thinking about him, do the action. You will be amply rewarded. And our senior colleague, Dr. Rajiv Chaure's incident is an apt example of his selfless service to Mr. Chai. And we have seen him doing that yeoman service around the Trai. Another important lesson we learned from your talk today was everything has to be offered to Bhagawan. I think you wanted to take your mother to Swami's Sannidhi. How Swami fulfilled that wish. It was again a very fascinating lesson. To see your transformation and journey from being a student to being an alumni to being a teacher was indeed very touching. When Swami had stopped his darshans in Trai, because it was clashing with the studies, and Swami wanted that we study on time and not go late into the night but early in the mornings, was another important lesson. Another fellow alumni of yours, when he said to Bhagawan, when Swami asked, whoever is not confident to give the exam, and he was lucky to get a pen from Bhagawan, which boosted his confidence and also his performance, was an amazing lesson. Another important insight you shared was, Swami's students are not just singing bhajans, they are meticulous planners, be it gram seva or executing a task, was well demonstrated with your experience. I think Dr. Raghunath Sharma, I have personally seen you grow from a student to a faculty. And one personal incident I would like to share was we were involved in a drama and you were to chant the word Allah. And I remember how many times Swami must have asked you to chant that word properly. And we used to, in a joking manner, used to tease each other with that tone of the word Allah. But that Allah Malik experience was an amazing lesson for you and me during our drama interactions with Bhagawan. Finally, the lesson we learned is every task has to be offered to Bhagawan. This offering of Bhagavan, we have to be conscious, be it chanting Brahmarpanam before food or all our actions dedicated to Bhagavan. And in those try sessions where Swami created drinks for so many students to protect them and guide them personally, and how when the seniors out of their own accord wanted Swami's darshan, which was our goal. And you aptly, demonstrated the transformation from a person to selfless sadhana and reaching Swami's thoughts and always trying to bring out the divinity in us by dedicating our acts to Bhagavan. So, in the Satcharita, as I mentioned in the introduction, Sai Baba used to say to one of his devotees, I know you for 60 generations, can I pinch you? And now we know that 4 of your generations from Pamidi in Anantapuram District, Andhra Pradesh, you are all devoted to Bhagavan. I think it's a apt lesson, and I'm sure enough of your generations must be connected to Bhagavan in the past and also in the future. And I would like that as we bring to close this 132nd edition of Samarpan, to thank the team for doing this digital satsang. I would like to thank the organization for giving us this opportunity. And Dr. Raghunath Sharma, this 132nd edition of Samarpan before the Buddha Purnima was indeed an abject lesson to us that we must remember Bhagavan always and try to transform our lives and act everything, be it our thought, word and deed, as an offering to Bhagavan. Jai Sai Ram and Dr. Raghunath Sharma, may you be blessed more years with Bhagavan in Parthi and in all your future births. Jai Sai Ram, thank you.